Hello everyone. We are in Unit 3 of Week 2. We are still on quality of assessments. In the last unit, we have discussed about validity of assessments. We have discussed about two sources of validity, test content validity and response process validity. In this unit, we will be discussing about the reliability of assessments. So at the end of this unit, you will be able to summarize the concept of reliability as per the ERA standards. You will also be able to explain the different types of reliability through some examples. Also, you'll be able to relate the concept of validity with reliability. The examples that we are trying to use, be it for validity or be it for reliability, probably it will help you apply these concepts when you are designing any assessment or you're designing any question paper. Okay. So what does reliability mean? Okay. Reliability refers to the consistency and dependability of the test results. Okay. So it is somewhere related to the confidence. How confident we are about the test results. How confidently can we comment on the students' learning based on results. The way validity is talks about, it refers to the accuracy and precision of the assessment. Here we are talking about the consistency. Okay, if the results are consistent, probably we'll be more confident, right? We'll be more confident about our claim of saying that yes, students have attained 80% of the course outcomes, right? And a test is considered reliable. Any test, it can be a written test or it can be a project, it can be a presentation, any kind of assessment is considered to be reliable when students' performance is consistent, okay, across different instances. Okay, now what do we mean by these instances when we are talking about consistency? So definitely when we are saying consistency, which means there are certain instances and we are trying to assess consistency among these instances. Okay, so what are these instances? These instances can be different kinds of assessment, different raters, different items or subsections in a same question paper, different sets of a test or different occasions of a test. So, in my subsequent slides, we will discuss about each of these instances in detail. Coming to the first aspect, which is different kinds of assessment. Okay. Now, while we were discussing about assessment for learning, okay, the formative purpose of assessment or assessment of learning, we have emphasized that for all three approaches of assessment which are used for supporting teaching and learning, multiple methods of assessments are used and should be used so that all the course outcomes can be assessed in a more holistic manner. Right. Some of the examples of those assessments can be projects, portfolios, presentations, case studies, and debates. Okay. And I think in this world, in the world of artificial intelligence, the concept of reliability becomes even more important. Okay. Because when we are trying to assess students' ability through some take-home assignment, okay, how do we actually know if the responses that student is submitting for that take-home assignment, if that response is created by student himself or herself, or that response is AI generated? How can we be sure? How can we be 100% sure about it? Okay. So for such scenario, we have, what do? We conduct different kinds of assessment. So say there was a take-home assignment, probably we will conduct another round of oral assessment, and then we will see if students' performance is consistent or not, right? So what are we seeing? We are basically saying that how uniform students' performance is across these two kinds of assessment. One is take-home assignment and another is the oral. Okay. So, for example, in this example also, say we have given a written report as the first method of assessment. Okay, and it might happen that a student has copied from some sources. Okay, but if a student is able to present it orally, probably we can be confident, yes, probably student has attained the desired outcomes. Okay, so this is one type of reliability. In this case, what do? We don't depend only on one kind of assessment. Instead, we conduct different methods of assessment to be 100% sure that our assessments are reliable in nature. The second kind of reliability is different raters. Okay. Now, what do we mean by raters? Raters are someone who is evaluating the student's response. Okay. And this kind of reliability refers to the consistency of measurement when different raters evaluate the same set of students' responses. Okay. It might happen that, especially in a higher education context, you might have some teaching assistants with you, right? You may have 3-4 teaching assistants with you, and you have given a bunch of students' responses to grade to these teaching assistants. Now, how do you know that the teaching assistant A and teaching assistant B, C and D, they are using similar kind of criteria to assess students' responses? It might happen that one teaching assistant is more lenient, giving more marks to the student, and there is no consistency between how all these teaching assistants are assessing students' responses. So, this kind of reliability addresses this particular issue in assessment. Okay, and it can also happen that a single rater, only one person is assessing students' responses, say in the morning, and again certain responses are getting assessed in the evening, right? So it all depends on the understanding of the rater, the understanding of the teacher in different times. It can also depend on very extraneous kind of factors like how tired I am or how happy I am. Okay, it also depends on a teacher's mood when the teacher is grading students' responses. Okay, so it might happen that some kind of subjectivity might seep in, be it in the example that I have given in the first scenario, when different teaching assistants were grading students' responses, or only one individual is assessing students' responses but in different time zones, right? In each of these, it might happen that some kind of subjectivity is coming in, and especially in open-ended questions, right? Where we know that students can have alternate answers, students can respond in various manner, right? Now, in such cases, probably if we have scoring rubrics and a marking scheme which is well designed, which is very, very comprehensive, probably this can address this kind of a issue, and the reliability can be enhanced. Okay. So, there can be two kinds of this kind of reliability when we are saying different raters. It can be inter-rater or it can be intra-rater. So, by inter-rater, we mean that the consistency of measurements when different raters or evaluators assess the same set of students' responses. Okay, say there are two faculty members and they are independently grading the same design project. Okay, and assigning similar scores. Then we can say that yes, the assessments are reliable. Okay, probably they are using a very standard, a very well designed rubric to grade these design project. Similarly, in the second scenario, when it is inter-rater reliability, it refers to the consistency of measurements made by the same rater when evaluating the same responses but at different times. Okay, now suppose a faculty grades a set of lab reports today and say again next week. Okay, how similar the scores are. Okay, how consistent the scores are. In this case also, probably if there is a scoring rubric which will actually tell me that what are some of the criteria to assess the lab report. Okay, is it only about how accurate the results are, or is it also in the manner students have written about different kinds of precautions they have taken, right? So, all such aspects should be clearly defined in the scoring rubric to ensure reliability. Moving to the third type of reliability, which is of different items. Okay, so by items we mean questions. Okay, so different questions in a question paper. Okay, so it involves assessing the consistency of responses within a single test or assessment. There is a statistical measure to assess this kind of reliability. We also call it as Cronbach's alpha. Okay, and it quantifies the extent to which items within a test paper measure the same underlying construct. And if the Cronbach alpha measure, if it is more than 0.7, we say that yes, all the items are assessing the same construct. So if you can recall the definition of validity when we were saying if the test assesses the intended construct, right? So what does construct mean? It is a theoretical attribute, it is very broad, it is very abstract, right? But still, if all the items, if suppose there are 10 questions in a question paper, and if all those 10 questions are assessing the broader construct of say problem solving, and then there can be various course outcomes related to the problem solving, right? Then we can say that reliability is ensured, and probably the Cronbach's alpha measure will also be very high. So it ranges from 0 to 1, and anything which is more than 0.7 is a good test paper. Again, there are two examples, say of engineering mathematics. If a student consistently solves a variety of differential equations correctly, okay, for example, solving first order, second order and linear differential equations, the test reliably indicates their competence in differential equations, right? We can confidently say, because the student's performance is consistent. However, it might happen that some question is giving some scope of guessing, okay, and student is able to give the right answer based on guessing, okay. In that case, probably students' responses will not be consistent, okay, because students has not attained that skill. Probably student is only responding to the question through guesswork. Similarly, another example of engineering mechanics, if a student consistently analyzes and solves multiple statics problems involving forces, moments and equilibrium, the assessment reliably affects their understanding of mechanics concepts, right? So in this case, probably we are trying to see if the questions do not have any scope of guesswork, or the questions are not being repeated from the previous year question papers. Another type of reliability, and this is the fourth type of reliability, which is on different sets of a test, okay. We have always seen that say in case of a large class, we will prefer to use two sets of a question paper, okay, and these two sets of a question paper should be designed in a manner that they should be at the similar level of complexity and at a similar level of difficulty, okay. It shouldn't happen that one question paper is more difficult or less difficult than the other, okay. In that case, probably we are giving some kind of a benefit to the student, and probably it is unfair to the other set of students, okay. This kind of reliability is also called as parallel form reliability. So what do we do in such cases? We generally use the same blueprint. We use the same blueprint to design different question paper. So my blueprint, which tells me the distribution of questions across different content domains, different course outcomes, different cognitive levels, different difficulty levels. So this basically gives me a framework, right? This tells me that how distributed the questions are, okay. And if I am able to use the same framework to design two different sets of question paper, probably my question paper will be more reliable. So these are certain practices that probably we can use to make our question papers more reliable. The last kind of reliability is different occasions of a test. Now, this kind of reliability probably is not so applicable in the context of education, but for the sake of completion, I thought that it is better to discuss all 5 types of reliability. It is mostly applicable for psychological and aptitude test, where we try to administer the same test in different times, and then we say how consistently student is responding to the question, okay. The nature of test constructs are very different in this case. For example, in GRE or SAT, These are all aptitude tests, and in these kind of tests, different occasions of a test or ensuring reliability across different occasion of a test becomes very important. Now that we have understood the concept of validity in Unit 2 and reliability in Unit 3, let us see that how these two concepts are linked to each other. Okay, and having an understanding of this relation will probably help us do a better job of designing questions and also the marking schemes. Okay, and we can actually imagine this as a Venn diagram where there is a broad overlap. Okay, so the kind of measures that we take for ensuring validity or the kind of measures that we take for ensuring reliability, okay, there is a huge overlap. So probably similar kind of measures will lead to a valid as well as reliable test paper. What we will try to do is we will try to see a few examples that how validity and reliability are related to each other. Let us take the first example of using multiple methods of assessment. Say for the course on environmental engineering, there is a topic on wastewater treatment. And for this particular topic, probably I can, as a teacher, I can try to assess my students through a written test or a project, or when the students are doing the lab, probably I am observing them. Okay, I am observing them, the manner in which they are doing the lab, gathering, collecting data, how they are handling the experimental setup, all of that. Okay, so I am trying to observe them. Okay, now what will happen if I am trying to gather these evidences through multiple methods of assessment? Probably I am more confident about students' attainment of course outcomes related to wastewater treatment. I know that students understand the facts related to these concepts, certain concepts through a written test, okay, because those are the things that will be assessed through a written test. I know student is also able to apply these concepts through a project, okay, also is able to do some lab work, right? So I am more confident. So my test results, my assessment results are more reliable. Similarly, doing or having multiple methods of assessment also ensures validity. So we have seen the concept of construct under representation. Okay, now the construct under representation happens when we are focusing only on one specific aspect of the construct or one specific aspect of a topic. Okay, but if we are assessing students through multiple methods, we are not only assessing students' ability to recall facts or explain the concepts, we are also able to assess students' ability to apply the concepts through say project, or we are also able to assess students' ability to communicate their results through a oral presentation. So all of this is basically helping me assess the construct in a more holistic manner. So using multiple methods of assessment ensures both validity as well as reliability. Coming to the second example, designing blueprint. Now we know that if we use the same blueprint to design different sets of question paper, my question paper or my assessment is more reliable, right? Because the framework that I am using to design two sets of question paper is the same, right? So I am more confident about students' result. Similarly, if I have a very balanced blueprint, okay, and through this blueprint, I am able to understand that how are my questions distributed, okay, and my questions are not so skewed. It is not happening that one course outcome is getting completely left out in the question paper. Through this framework, I am confidently able to say that say there are 3 course outcomes and how many marks are allocated to each of those course outcomes, and on that also what percentage of that mark is from different cognitive levels, right? So I'm very sure about the distribution of the questions across cognitive levels, across course outcomes. Now if I have this kind of a balanced blueprint, that I'm using for designing the question paper, probably again the aspect of construct under representation, okay, that is being taken care, because my construct is well represented now through a very balanced blueprint. So again, through a blueprint, I am ensuring both validity as well as reliability. Similarly, if we have a clear assessment task, if there are no ambiguity in the way question is framed, sometimes there are certain vocabulary that are used which are unfamiliar to the student, or suppose there are certain graphs that are being used which are not clear. In that case, these factors are irrelevant, and again validity gets compromised, right? But if we have clear assessment task, if I am very confident about the nature of the assessment, I have a very valid measure of students' learning. Similarly, such kind of a arrangement also ensures reliability, because there will not be any confusion, and we are not giving a undue advantage to certain set of students. It might happen that certain set of students are more familiar about certain kind of vocabulary, and they are able to make sense of the question, and therefore they are able to respond. But in another setup, when the vocabulary is very different, during that time probably the same set of students are not able to respond to the question, right? So there will be students' performance will be inconsistent in this manner. So having clear assessment task ensures both validity and reliability. Similarly, the fourth example can be the usage of comprehensive scoring rubrics and marking scheme. Through this, we can ensure both validity as well as reliability. How? So, say by scoring rubrics, we mean that we have a good understanding of the kind of criteria that will be used to assess something, right? Say for a project, one of the criteria can be content knowledge. Another criteria can be collaboration, right? Teamwork. Or another criteria can be oral communication, how well they have communicated their findings, right? So there can be different criteria of assessment assessing the same project. Similarly, we can have different levels of the same criteria. When do we say that students are in level 3 of collaboration? When do we say the students are in level 2 of collaboration, or when do we say students are in level 1 of collaboration, right? So if we have a very detailed marking scheme, the details related to the criteria of assessment and the details related to different levels of each of those criteria, the definition of these levels for different criteria, okay? So in this case, what will happen? Now, if a evaluator, if a teacher is using this kind of a framework, this kind of a scoring rubric to grade the responses, probably in that case, the reliability will be ensured, because the inter-rater and intra-rater errors will be minimized, right? Because I am using the same rubric, different set of raters are using the same rubric, or the single rater is also using the same rubric in different times, right? So the marking will be more reliable. Similarly, as far as validity is concerned, right, now we are perfectly aware that these are the thinking processes which are going to be assessed through an assessment, right? And all those processes are very clearly reflected in the scoring rubrics, right? So the construct response process validity, right, that can also be taken care through defining these criteria and through defining the definition of each of these levels. So if I have this rubric, probably I understand that what is expected, what kind of thinking is expected from a child to respond to a question, and I can accordingly mark the student, right? I can accordingly score the student. So in this case, validity is also ensured. Okay, so this is the fourth example, and we have seen some 4 examples to see that how validity and reliability can be ensured through either having clear assessment items, or having a clear blueprint, or using multiple methods of assessment, or having a detailed scoring rubric. Okay, in this case, in this particular unit, we have discussed about different types of reliability. We have also tried to summarize the concept of reliability. In our next unit, we will try to introduce the third aspect of quality, which is on fairness of assessments.